Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. And you have heard me over the last couple of years talk more than I have in the past years, about hand loading and reloading and kind of my reemergence into it. I got out of it for a while. Now I'm back into it huge. Play with a lot of different cartridges and different things. And we've talked about what you could do with that. And it's my sense, I don't know that this is true. I haven't actually asked anybody in the industry. My sense is that there are more people interested in hand loading now than ever before. And as part of that, we at Gun Talk, we're offering all these classes now at our new facility down in Louisiana. We said, well, let's have a hand loading class, a reloading class. Who better to do that, to actually teach the class, than the ultimate reloader himself, Gavin Gear. He joins us right now. Gavin, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, it's nice to be on Gun Talk.
Well, I appreciate it. You're going to go down to Louisiana and teach our first reloading class.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing the facilities, and it's always cool to see people face to face. I kind of vicariously present to people on YouTube a lot and whatnot, and so that personal connection, always something special.
Well, now, you have this massive YouTube channel about reloading, and you test different presses and different things, and you look at all this. And I know there are people who probably have said to you, like they've said to me, well, how can you possibly talk about this for that long? And you just kind of laugh, don't you?
I do. There's never-ending list of gear, cartridges, firearm types, explorations into ballistics. It's kind of like having your own ballistics lab, especially when you have a chronograph and, you want to optimize performance. Yeah, there's never a possibility to get bored with this.
And I always tell people, I say, look, it's been my experience after, many, many decades of doing all this stuff. There literally is no such thing as an inexpensive hobby, because you can spend as much as you want and maybe more than you have. But having said that, you can get into reloading for what, a few $100?
Yeah, I think if you're real scrappy about it, I mean, there's a couple ways to go. You could either buy brand new, inexpensive equipment, like one of the Lee kits or something like that, or you could inherit some gear from a family member, go to a garage sale, go to a pawn shop. You don't need a whole lot to get into reloading. There's some supplies, some gear, some tools, that you need to be safe, but simple tools are plenty to get started with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a press, a set of dies, powder measure, maybe calipers, 2 or 3 other things. It's not a lot. And unlike in the old days when when I got started, I'm trying to read loading manuals and figure out what they're talking about, about sizing and the dice, all that. And now it's all right there on your website. You show people how to do this, and when you see it, you can learn it.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you understand the basic concepts, it's kind of different variations. Pistol and rifle have some differences, some things to pay special attention to, like for instance, when you're seating bullets on a handgun cartridge like 9mm or 45 ACP, 20 thousandths of an inch of bullet seating difference could change pressures quite a bit.
Right.
Whereas typically, with a rifle, you have quite a large case volume, and seating that small diameter in comparison bullet doesn't do a whole lot for pressure, but it can definitely affect accuracy. So yeah, different things based on different applications for sure.
It occurs to me also as I'm watching people, their comments online, this can be intimidating for somebody who's thinking they want to get into it. If they start reading about it online and they're seeing these people who have gone, to the ultimate geeky level of tweaking everything, you don't have to do that. You can simply make ammo that functions well, and that can be far enough to at least get you started.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's where it's kind of fun to have different members on my team. Guy Miner, who you might see cover hunting, and we're working on a series called Basic Reloading right now. He's more about keeping it simple. Me, I'm kind of more about nerding out with auto drives and 10-station presses and
Right.
Ballistics, recoil rig, trigger scan, all that stuff. And so, we have a lot of fun, and it's kind of fun to play off of each other a little bit. I give him a bad time about, not having some of the latest gear, and he gives me a bad time about lugging around a 12-pound hunting rifle. So,
yeah, and his stuff will kill things just as well as your stuff will.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's nice to keep it simple. It really is.
Well, I mean, look, if you're going after a deer, an elk, or an antelope, you don't have to have quarter-minute accuracy. It's fun, and that can be its own goal in and of itself. But the reality is, for most of the stuff we do, an inch gun works just fine. But the problem is, and you know this, once you get that thing that shoots to an inch, you think, well, can I do it a little better? And now you're starting down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely. Yeah, a guy and I were just doing that yesterday. I have this 7mm PRC that I built, and we've got this match load that's the first 3 shots out of the gun went into 0.325 inch group, and then we've got solid copper hunting bullets that are grouping way larger than that. In reality, plenty good, for that 300 yard deer shot. But when he sees this, shot in the 3s, he's tempted. He's tempted because we did a video comparing match bullets versus hunting bullets, and both can work. That was the Hornady ELDM versus the ELDX.
I'm interested. What was the difference in accuracy? I bet it wasn't a whole lot.
Those bullets both shoot really well. We were comparing 6.5 Creedmoor,
right?
And my hand loads for the 143 ELDX are in the half-inch range, which is great for hunting.
Right.
The ELDMs might be a little bit tighter. Where things got really interesting was the ballistics gel, because the tougher jacket on the hunting bullet definitely did better, but the match bullet wasn't that far behind. It was pretty surprising. Penetration, wound cavity diameter, weight retention was a little bit better on the hunting bullet, but a lot of folks swear by match bullets for hunting. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go and do that, but it's an interesting debate.
I was just going to say, and that's how we start our online bar fights, right? When we're talking about hunting with burgers or match bullets, and everybody's going, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. That'd be terrible." And the other guy says, "Yeah, the only problem is I've never lost an ammo with it." Well, yeah, well, how many have you shot? Well, I don't know, 30 so far. You go, "Oh, well, maybe you do know what you're talking about."
Exactly. And it comes down to having the animal in the right place and getting the right shot placement is probably way more important than, an ELDX versus an ELDM.
Exactly. Hey, Gavin, hold on a second here and take a quick break. We're talking with Gavin Gear. Check him out, ultimatereloader.com. That's ultimatereloader.com. You're going to be amazed at all the stuff he has there and what he's doing. When we come back, I want to talk about getting started in this. How hard is it? And the ultimate question that everybody asks when they get started, is this really safe? Where we're talking about, Gavin, about load ladders and nodes and stuff. It's like you're going, are you guys actually shooting anything other than just going out and shooting paper and developing loads? Sometimes I wonder.
Sorry. I just swallowed something.
Oh, yes. My God. That hit too close to home, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We shoot steel targets a lot, and hunting is definitely a big part of what we do. So that's something I want to get back into. It's such a big commitment, but I have done quite a bit of varmint hunting with rock chucks and other vermin around the place. And
right.
That's pretty fun.
And that's where accuracy comes in. I mean, and you can tune. I mean, ultimately, the reason, I guess I ought to back up. People say, why would reloading make your loads more accurate? You're tuning a load to a particular rifle, and there are a lot of variables about chamber size and throat length and all the other stuff, and also barrel harmonics. And when you hit a certain point and the harmonics are working for you, that rifle settles down, and you may be shooting 1.5 inch groups with factory loads, and you're shooting third or half inch groups with your reloads, but it takes a little bit of work. Not a whole lot, a lot of times, but it does take a little bit of work, and that's part of the fun, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when you're doing a load workup, load development, it's all about finding the right bullet that barrel likes, and then working up with potentially different powders or the same powder. For each powder test sequence, you'll come down below max load, work up different increments, shoot groups, with those different loads at different powder charge levels.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing to see just how big a difference these slight variations can make. And the ultimate goal is to find that load and then to come back the next day and shoot that load and to find, oh, yes, it still works. I've got consistency, my shooting
right.
technique is consistent, my rifle is really good, and then that certain load that just the rifle loves, that's a huge feeling of satisfaction.
It really is. Are there, in your opinion, are more people getting into reloading now?
Well, it's been interesting. A couple years back, we had COVID, we had civil unrest, and we had an election. And I'll tell you, people, and this is nothing new to anybody that's probably listening, people went absolutely insane on everything related,
Mm-hmm.
handguns, rifles, ammunition, reloading components. And it was so bad that things like primers haven't really been readily available in the last few years.
Right.
And I think there was an initial interest back in 2020, and then people got kind of tired of, waiting for stuff and frustrated with the fact that they didn't have what they needed to reload. And now it feels like things are leveling out a little bit. Powders are starting to come back on the shelves. Primers, maybe, that's still a little bit touch and go.
A little bit, yeah.
And so I think we're going to see another spike in another increase in interest in reloading in general,
because they can get components.
Exactly. Maybe they've been wanting to for a couple of years. They realize I don't feel so certain about always being able to get what I need, and having that flexibility and ability to recycle ammo is great.
And also, there are new powders coming out. I mean, Hodgson's going to be introducing 2 more at SHOT Show. You got a lot of interesting new things going on. And I mentioned that to say this. For folks like me who have loading manuals that go back 40 years, they are fun and they are historical. But please don't depend upon your really old loading manuals, because the powders have changed. And sometimes it's a little bit, but sometimes it's significant. And the other thing is that some of those old loading manuals, man, those loads were hot back then.
Yep. It's all about knowing your own firearm and working things up incrementally and looking for signs of trouble.
Give me an idea of what you're going to teach in this class down in Louisiana.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So this is a no experience necessary kind of get together. We're going to start with things like reloading safety and kind of a backgrounder on all of the different things that you need to know and all the supplies that you're going to need. Then we're going to move into reloading for handguns. I'm thinking that's day 1. Okay. And what's fun about it is we're all going to do it together, and people are going to be able to shoot that ammunition and experience the thrill. I remember the very first time I reloaded, it was for 44 Magnum, and it was a pretty much full house load. It was in that upper load range. I think I started a little bit below max, And I remember being at the indoor range and pulling the trigger and having the thrill of not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the thrill I get every time I build a rifle, do the chambering and put it together. And that first time you pull the trigger, you think, I hope I got my headspace right. I hope my end play is right. I hope everything's going to be safe. And, I've never had a problem. All these years of reloading, I'm double check, triple, if you measure twice and cut once in woodworking, it's good to check load data 3 or 4 times. And actually 3 or 4 different sources. So sometimes I'll go to Hodgson.com. If it's a Hornady bullet, I'll pull out the Hornady manual, and I'll compare to see where those different load data sources arrive at, and then they'll supply you cartridge overall length and things like that. And once you get that information, double check, triple check, start a little bit below or somewhere in the middle, it's a thrill. It's exciting. So anyways, back to the class. So day one, people are going to load handgun ammunition. And we're going to do this, on a simple press. We're not going to get one of these real complicated progressive presses. This is going to be kind of thinking about one thing at a time. You're not going to typically load pistol ammo that way in bulk, but to understand the process and to start with the fundamentals would be great.
Makes sense.
Shoot the ammunition at the range, and that's always a kick. It's like,
and at this facility, the range is 200 yards from the room where you are loading. So you just literally walk out the door and you're on the range.
That is so cool. That's the only way to do it, if you can pull it off, right?
So second day, are we going to go to rifles on second day?
Yes, rifles. So, how is rifle different than pistol? And this is where we're going to, pay attention to certain things a little bit more. We're going to think about case prep a little bit more. After we size the case, did it elongate enough where we might need to trim it in order for it to be in spec and in order for it to chamber? And, getting real specific around what powder and what powder charge are we going to use. Of course, we'll do that for pistol as well, because it's equally critical.
And Hodgson is one of the sponsors of this, so we'll have powder there.
Yes. Isn't that nice?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And to go through the process, to inspect the ammunition, and to go out and shoot the ammunition at the range again. And what would be great is if we could chronograph the ammunition, and then they can compare that to the load data and see where they're at. Usually, if barrel length is similar, you're going to be pretty close to what the data says. And, by the time we're done with both of those, people are going to know pretty much the whole process end to end. And then we'll probably talk about some of the things they can do next that we're not going to get into.
Right. What's next?
Like working up powder charges for their rifle, or experimenting with different primers, different bullet seating lengths, maybe figuring out what the two lands distance is. In other words, when you seat the bullet a little bit longer, eventually it'll get to the point where it's just barely touching the rifling.
Right.
And then that's typically where you think of as your zero. And then you think of negative thousandths of an inch, working your way back, seating that bullet deeper and deeper.
But weirdly enough, some rifles like it touching the land, some like it way off, and most of them are somewhere in the middle, and you just got to experiment with it.
Exactly. And we've been doing more with solid copper bullets this last year for rifle, and sometimes it's a safety thing to have a bit of jump there where the pressures can work themselves down a little bit, and you're not having a spike, because those solid copper bullets, they can be really hard, and they can be harder to push down the bore and build pressures a little bit faster than a, cup and core bullet. So
it sounds it's going to be a wonderful class. And look, for those who don't know, I'm crazy about reloading. I think it's a wonderful activity in and of itself. Yes, it leads to the hunting and the accuracy and all the rest of it. But reloading is a lifetime activity and hobby itself, and there's no limit to how far you can go with it. Gavin, if you would, give me the 20-second pitch on your website and what people can see when they go there.
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimatereloader.com, we've got a lot of articles covering everything from reloading processes, cartridge overviews, in-depth rifle builds, machining, and every time we publish a story, it's on YouTube and it's on the website.
There it is. Gavin Gear, thank you so much. Ultimate Reloader. We're having our class down there. Go to rangereadystudios.com and you can sign up for it. Really appreciate it. We'll do it again, okay?
Thanks, Tom.
All righty, you take care. Are you a reloader? Have you thought about getting into reloading?